Yeah, and continuing our discussion of your work at Juilliard, you studied at Juilliard with one of the premier cello teachers, not just in the country, but really in the world, and Richard Aaron. Can you talk a little bit about how you first came to work with him and also how your work together has shaped your view and your work as a cellist and musician today?
Sure. Oh, Richard, my dear friend Richard. I first was introduced to Richard perhaps by the legacy of his pedagogy and his students, in that I heard the great cellist David Ricciero,
Yeah.
who is, I believe, a professor in I think it's Denver, Colorado. You
Colorado
know,
Boulder.
Boulder,
Yeah, yeah,
Colorado.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
And the reason I heard him is because he had just recently won the Klein competition,
Hmm.
and they performed with the Great Peninsula Symphony in the Bay Area. And
Oh.
uh, actually, as a little fun fact, my father, who's an amateur violinist, was
Hmm.
a member of that symphony. So every year I would go
Oh.
hear the Klein competition winners.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing David Ricchiero's right hand, and
Yeah,
this was something that was always a weakness of mine. And just the way he pulled the bow
yeah,
on the right hand, and just the beauty of the mechanic of the arm. I was like,
right.
I want that bow arm. And
Yeah.
then, of course, reading his background, I saw he studied with this man named Richard Aaron. And so um, uh, I was very lucky to get connected with him, and he invited me one summer to join him in Aspen
Hmm.
and take some lessons with him. And the very first time I met him, he gave a master class.
Hmm.
And Richard Aaron is one of the finest masterclass givers of all time, in my opinion. Um, he's able to recognize a technical weakness in a very nice way, in a student, and he has a very direct and applicable tool in which to correct that weakness. And so uh, it was very a wonderful summer, and eventually that led to a relationship that allowed me to study with him at Juilliard. And I'm so thankful because, kind of alluding to the past where I always felt my technique had to catch up with my musicality, he was the perfect teacher for me
Hmm.
because of his ability to give musicians a set of tools.
Yeah.
It really feels like when you study with Richard, he's giving you a toolbox
Hmm.
and a system to recognize your own weaknesses, and then you can really fix them yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the big leaps in progression from a student cellist to a semi-professional and a professional is teaching somebody how to practice.
Right.
Um, at least from my perspective, I never really had uh, the clearest goals in the practice room, and Richard really gave me that toolbox in
Hmm.
which to enhance my playing, and for that I'm eternally grateful.
Hmm.
And he really just he fixed me up. I was a
Hmm.
broken car. I went into his workshop, and he just tuned me up
Yeah.
real good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he really is like the closest thing to like a cello doctor, where I
Yeah,
think is
yeah,
he just you go see him and he knows what to do. So
absolutely.
yeah. So
Have you had a chance to work with him, or?
no, unfortunately, it's been a dream to play for him, but he came to Indiana a few years back, and this was right before the pandemic, and he gave a master class. So I didn't play, but yeah, I got to observe and just see his incredible teaching. So yeah, and it's kind of for you at least coming full circle because recently it was announced that he was going to be teaching at the San Francisco Conservatory, so he'll be kind of back in your
That's
old
right.
stomping grounds. So
I know, I know.
yeah,
I'm really happy to hear that, and
yeah.
it was. I think it's definitely a big surprise for a lot of us, but I think
Yeah,
a very exciting development.
right.
I guess my history with the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, I I did their pre-college program,
Mm,
and and it's just grown into this, at least from what it seems to me, is like they're making a lot of moves to become a significant player in the space.
right,
Um, where they purchased Opus 3
right.
and then making these big moves, and now they have Richard. And so
Yeah.
if if I was a betting man,
Mhm.
and music organizations were stocks,
Mm.
I would buy a lot of stock in SFPM right now.
That's a great
Coming
way to
from a
put.
man with an economics
That's
degree, right?
right. And I'm glad you also brought up David Ricuro. He is an incredible cellist. Like, honestly,
Amazing.
in many ways, very underrated and underappreciated, I would say, because he's very low profile, which I respect, obviously.
Yeah.
But I played for him before he got the Colorado job. He like randomly came to Oklahoma one with his. He was with a piano trio, uh, and his trio came, and we played in a little. I played in a little master class for him, and he is honestly, I feel like in many ways a direct reflection of Richard Aaron and just
Yeah.
the way he talks about the cello. Um,
He's a
so
very thoughtful guy, great
yeah,
musician,
very yeah,
very, very sung quality to his playing, and
mm,
phrasing is impeccable.
yeah, yeah.